We were the only two Christians. We happened to sit next to each other, and we got the worst profile. Karen and Rick, your first assignment is Hugh Hefner. It's a man who I had literally hated before that. It all dropped, and I felt so sorry for him. He said, I guess I'm just a little kid still looking for love. That I realized a little boy never got love. He grew up when he's an adolescent. When he gets older, it's a business. And then it became an empire. And it was all built on the brokenness. You know a living God, but I don't think you've ever met a loving God.
You and your husband live in the city of angels. Have you ever seen an angel?
The fact that we have angels around us, taking care of us, protecting us, it's beyond what I can imagine. I literally now pray for miracles every day. And she said, your son has a brain tumor. And found out he had a brain tumor the size of an orange in the back of his head. At 11 o'clock that morning, 12 of our friends got together and prayed for Christopher and prayed for us. And that changed my life forever with prayer. If we as Christians knew how powerful we are, we should be like fortresses of spiritual strength and hope and joy.
You've been alleged to have smuggled Bibles into the former Soviet Union.
We want to bring Bibles to people there when it was still behind iron curtains. Oh, I'm like, Lord, I should have been more full of faith and calmer, but I'm like...
No, Soviet prison is not where you want to go. Welcome back to Heaven Meets Earth. We just had the most incredible conversation with a dear friend and someone who's family to me, Karen Covell, and wasn't that amazing?
And I know you've known her for a long time, but this was my first experience hearing from her. I am blown away, and y'all just get ready. Her story about ministering to Hugh Hefner is so good, and just God is using her so mightily in Hollywood. We cannot wait to share this interview with you. But first, a word from CBN. Heaven Meets Earth is made possible by CBN and listeners like you. To learn more and to make a tax-deductible gift so that we can continue to share more miracle stories, go to heavenmeetsearth.com. Welcome to Heaven Meets Earth. I'm Abby Robertson, here with my co-host, Ryan Bethea.
I am so excited. Today, not only is this guest incredible, the CEO and founder of the Hollywood Prayer Network, Karen Covell, she's also like family to me and has the most incredible stories. So Karen Covell, thank you for being here on Heaven Meets Earth. I do want to jump right into a segment of Two Truths and a Lie, and I want you to point this out because this should be a good segue for today's interview. So these three things. You've preached the gospel to Hugh Hefner, the founder of Playboy Magazine.
Yes.
You've smuggled Bibles into Russia.
Yes.
And you're an introvert. So, two truths and a lie.
Two truths and a lie. Guess which is which. Oh, I shouldn't have said yes. I should have.
Well, all right, spoiler alert. So,
Shoot.
I would love to open up with, if you would honor us with the Hugh Hefner story, because I've known you for a decade, and I just heard it last month, and I was blown away.
No.
Proving that the gospel can just do things you never thought possible.
Absolutely. Well, and it is a huge miracle and very fun. So yes, I will tell you that story. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
This is so great. So I'm a producer. I have produced specials, documentaries. I love true stories. And I was hired onto a show out of MSNBC in New Jersey called Headliners and Legends with Matt Lauer. And I came on as a producer on a new team in Los Angeles where the executive producer was a friend of mine. And he brought on 12 people to focus on telling true stories, kind of celebrating the lives of celebrities in a 1-hour special. So you get assigned a celebrity, a team of 2 producers, and then we interview people, we find out their story, interesting things about them. Then the last thing you do is you interview them and get kind of insight and fun stories, and then cut a 1-hour special. So I started the show, came on the first meeting, 12 of us in the room. We all met each other. Nobody knew each other before. And we were talking about who we'd love to interview. And there were fun people at the time that, everybody was excited about. Jennifer Aniston was one of them. And, these different people that were like, oh, we'd love to find out more about them. And then he said, okay, we've had some names approved by MSNBC, so we're going to start by just assigning some people right away. And he looked at me, and this guy next to me I had never met. His name was Rick. And he goes, Karen and Rick, your first assignment is Hugh Hefner. And I looked at him like, I cannot believe, of all the people in the world, this man is not my favorite. I was so angry at the way he treated women, the way he objectified them, he's changed our culture. And I am not a good one to talk about that. I thought this has got to be a joke. So I went home and I said to Jim, my husband, you cannot believe it. I don't want to do this. And he said, well, if you don't do it, somebody else will. So why don't you do it and do it differently? And I suddenly thought, well, that's kind of interesting. What could I do? But I had this Rick guy I was working with. So I went back the next day and I came in the office and I said, Rick, I have to be honest with you. I do not want to interview and profile Hugh Hefner. And he looked at me and goes, neither do I. And I said, what? I said, well, what did you do? And he goes, well, I went home last night and I called my pastor.
Wow.
I said, your pastor? And my first thought was, what kind of pastor? I'm like, what did he say? And he said, Rick, if you don't do it, somebody else will. So why don't you do it differently? And every time I tell this, I get goosebumps because literally we were told the exact same thing by his pastor and my husband. So we went, okay, we have to do this. We found out that of the 12 new people on this show, we were the only 2 Christians. We happened to sit next to each other, and we got the worst profile. So we're like, okay, we have to figure out what to do. So we started praying in an office of a lot of people who didn't. And we suddenly got this idea, how about instead of celebrating what he's accomplished or who he is, why don't we find out why he became who he is? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a reason for who they are. So let's find out why. So instead of going to all the celebrities he knew and all the people that hang out at the mansion and everything, we went to his childhood friends. We went to his neighbors, his parents' friends, people that knew him growing up, and interviewed them and said, tell us who this man is and was, and why do you think he got to this place? And the story blew us away, but we had to get it from him as well. So our last interview was Hef. And I, of course, nobly hired a Christian sound man and a Christian cameraman, and the 4 of us got in the car together and we drove up to the mansion.
To Babylon.
Yes. When I tell the story and Jim's there, he always hums Christian soldiers.
Yes.
Carry on, Christian.
Carry on. So we pull up to the mansion. There's this big, beautiful gate. And suddenly this voice comes out of this boulder next to us. So we look at the boulder and it asks who we are and we tell it. And then the gates open and we go up this beautiful drive. He had the most manicured, gorgeous property. Amazing. We saw a peacock. We saw a flamingo. We understood he had a zoo license. So there was a zebra somewhere on the property.
Oh, my word.
Just amazing. And then there were yellow yield signs all the way up the drive that said, beware bunnies at play. All the way up. So we pull into the parking spot and we go into the library of it was a gorgeous mansion. And the library was set without being touched for interviews, without being used for anything else, because he had so many interviews. He averaged 365 a year. That's how many interviews. People were calling him all the time. So we came into the room, my poor cameraman and sound man, plug it in, don't touch anything, everything's fine, just put it where we want you to put it, and that was it. And then he came in with an entourage of people, and there were some bunnies, some PR people, a bodyguard. I think the back had a hitman, and they all just come right in. And he was lovely. He
was he in a bathrobe?
The smoking jacket.
The smoking jacket.
The silk red smoking jacket. Absolutely. I imagined he had a closet of 100 of them and just, took one. All the same. So we said hello, we sat down, he sat down, and then Rick asked the questions. And Rick's first question was, so Hef, what was your life like growing up? And he immediately answered, well, we believed in God, but it wasn't a very loving home.
Wow.
And we're like, that was the wildest thing. And then he starts telling us about his broken home. He said, my parents never told my brother or me that they loved us. And he said, and my mother had a phobia of germs, and she never touched us, never hugged us, never kissed us. He said, they did one thing for me when I was little that showed me that they loved me. It was the only thing. They gave me a gift, and I hung on to that gift. I slept with it. I carried it during the day. My only reminder my parents actually loved me. And he goes, it was a blanket. And I called it my bunny blanket because it had little bunny rabbits around the outside of the blanket. And he said that was my only sign that my parents cared about me. And he said when I was 7 or 8, I got a tumor in my ear. And I had to have surgery to remove it. And the doctor told my mom that I could lose my hearing. And so he said, I remember one day I was listening to my mom on the phone with her best friend. And her best friend was trying to talk my mom into giving me a puppy because my whole life I wanted a puppy, but that has germs, so I could never have it. And he said, finally, she said, Hef could be deaf. Get him a puppy. So he said, my mom went to the pound and got this adorable little puppy and brought it to the house and put it in a room that she would not go into. And it couldn't leave that room. She said, if you want a puppy, it's right there. And he said, so I spent all my time with this puppy. And he said, I loved him. And he said, what I did to show my love was I gave the puppy my blanket, my bunny blanket to sleep on. And he said that was great for 5 days. And then my puppy died. His mom didn't know that he got a sick puppy that she got a sick puppy from the pound. And he said, the day my puppy died, my mom had someone take him out of the room. And then in front of me, because of the germs, she burned my bunny blanket. And we were all silent. And he looked at us in the interview and he said, I guess I'm just a little kid still looking for love. And he went on for the rest of the interview telling us how he has been searching for love his entire life and has not yet found it. He said, every Friday night for decades, my best friends come over to the mansion and we watch old romantic movies because I'm looking for the love story that's true. I want to find a romantic love that's true. And he said, I listen to love songs. I'm looking for the lyrics that are true. And he said, I haven't found it yet. With my friends, with any of my wives, with my work associates, my neighbors, he said, I just haven't found a love that's true. Well, at the end of the interview, it was silence in the room. And we're all looking around. And suddenly a PR person steps out from the group and she says, well, that wasn't a interview, that was a therapy session. And we all started laughing because of the release of, oh my gosh, you're right, that was amazing. Hef stands up, comes straight to us and said, that was my favorite interview.
Wow.
Thank you so much. No one asks me about my childhood. No one gives me a chance to talk about my family. I loved that. And we said, well, you're welcome. That was great. Thank you. And what happened to me at that moment was a man who I had literally hated before that. Mm-hmm. It all dropped and I felt so sorry for him. I had a compassion that I realized a little boy never got love. He grew up. When he's an adolescent, it becomes sex. When he gets older, it's a business. And then it became an empire. And it was all built on the brokenness of a little boy. And I thought, how many stories of people have something that we judge them for who they are based on their actions, and we don't understand their hearts. So after the interview, I went home and I wrote him a letter. And I said, thank you so much, Hef, for the opportunity to interview you. I said, I realize that you have accomplished everything there is for man to accomplish. I said, but I think you have one more accomplishment. You know a living God, but I don't think you've ever met a loving God. And this book might help you. And I put in with the letter a book by Ravi Zacharias called Can Man Live Without God? Because Hef was so smart that it was this logical, intelligent process of can man really live without God? So I gave it to him and I said, well, that's all I can do, and started praying for him. 2 weeks later, I get a letter back. Dear Karen, thank you for my favorite interview. He said, and thank you for the book. I look forward to reading it. I do have a faith, but a lot of people don't understand it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to keep praying for him. 3 months later was Christmas. So I thought, I'm going to send him a Christmas gift. So I got a beautiful Bible that says God's word for the media professional that we give out to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I had his name stamped on the front, and it's wrapped nicely. And I sent it to him and said, Merry Christmas. And I wrote in it, I got a letter back a few weeks later. Thanks so much for the Christmas gift. Merry Christmas. 3 months after that, he was speaking at the Television Academy. So I brought a friend of mine who's a Christian. I said, let's go see him. Maybe we can talk to him. We sat down, he talked, and I said, Jackie, let's try to go backstage. So we went around and I told the guy who I was, and he went back and came and said, come on in. So we went backstage. He walked up to me, my favorite interview. I'm like, oh my goodness. And Jackie said, I introduced them, and she said, Hef, she said, that was really interesting. She said, but I think there's something in life that you have not experienced yet. And he said, what? And she said, grace. And he looked at her and he said, my mother's name was Grace. And the room just went silent again. And then people came up and I hugged him goodbye, and I never saw him again. But I prayed for him. And years later, a man came up to me who I had met, and he said, hey, I heard your Hef interview. And he'd go, I was one of his friends that came every Friday night to watch old romantic movies. And he said, I shared my faith with him. And he said, you might be surprised, but I think we're going to see him in heaven. And I said, okay, that's been my prayer. I have no idea. But just that chance to do something I didn't want to do and to find out a story of somebody who I had judged was a real lesson to me.
Wow.
Told you.
That is, I mean, that's just remarkable. And the way the Lord used you and planted you there and just gave you that heart is, I mean, I can't imagine just being a woman going there.
Well, I didn't have that heart at first, that's for sure. Yeah, no, it was hard. But, and there were Christians that thought I shouldn't do that. You're going to the mansion. I actually called a cameraman first to hire him. And as a Christian, he said, you know what, I'm a young dad. I've got to turn this down. I don't want to put myself in that place to go to the mansion.
And that's understandable.
Isn't
like,
it?
given the
I had great
attire
respect
that's
for
worn
him.
there. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder who else in our lives we have like judged, because I hear that story and my parents were so loving, and I mean, my mom and dad.
Oh my goodness.
And I think like, here's someone whose entire life like propagating and changing the culture because of a wound,
That's
right?
it.
That they
What?
had.
Yes.
And it just makes you go, like, if we should pray about who we meet and like think of them from like the world, that's under Satan's control, wounded them, and they're just living out that whole, and
Oh, they are.
They need
I got
God.
a prayer after that I pray all the time now. Lord, let me see them through your eyes and hear what they're saying through your ears. Because I've heard interviews with celebrities where the celebrity just drops this bomb of loneliness or hurt or emptiness, and the interviewer goes right on and just misses it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, people who have been interviewed after they win an Academy Award, I've literally heard celebrities say, so that's all there is? And, they go right on. And I think, oh my gosh, we're all searching. We're all hungry. And we just have to listen to what's going on and then know how to pray better, if nothing else.
And it's a beautiful reminder in our culture of cancel culture, of just getting so infuriated with people that we will probably never meet, but hear about and learn about only through social media, often through the way whichever bias we have towards them reflects that person. But just a beautiful reminder, if you are, so fired up, annoyed with someone, angry at someone, pray for them.
Yes.
Pray for them. Ask God to show you how to view them through a lens of his love, and see how he moves, and be prepared if there's ever an opportunity when you might find yourself in a room with them, that God wants you to be bold and to share his love.
Yeah, thank you for going. I mean, that's like, I think, I don't know how I would react to that. Now, Karen, I just have to point out, because before you were this anointed, prayerful, warrior matriarch of Los Angeles.
Do you see why I stick around, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I have some,
I think he read that on a bathroom wall or something.
as an insider, I have several moles planted in your family that have supplied me with information for today's interview. But apparently, you have a long history of not being obedient to God right off the bat, that you are, very adamant about things you will do and will not do for the Lord.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'd like to go back. You and I share an alma mater, so we share, God, country, USC family.
Well, yeah.
So fight on. But I'm told that you were not the, obedient Christian right off the bat, that you had a laundry list of things you told God, I will not do this. Could you elaborate on this?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I grew up in a home where we went to church, but we knew of God, but we didn't know God. So I was the third of four. And after each one of us left the house, we became something else. We left Catholicism, which is so beautiful now, but then it was hard. And we went on to something else. I have a sister who believes something, another sister who believes something, a brother who believes something. And I went to USC, and my dorm room mate that I was assigned to was a born-again Christian. And I didn't know anything that meant. All I knew is we both wore clogs, and no one else at USC had clogs on. So we had to be best friends. And I got to know her and just started talking, and she would share with me about how she had a really, really hard background. I had a fantasy home compared to her. My parents stayed married 54 years. Everything was great. And she had a really hard life, but she had peace I had never had before. So during that year, we would talk about things and ask tough questions. And about 3 weeks before the end of freshman year, I'm walking through campus, and suddenly I stopped on the grass and said, Lord, I want what Debbie has. She has showed me this year that she's amazing, and she says it's because of you. So if that's true, I want you. But there are 3 things I don't want. I do not want to tell anybody about you. Because my dad told me, you do not, no way. You do not talk about politics or religion in public. He made that very clear. We learned that. Don't talk about either one. Second thing, I do not want to be a missionary. The missionaries I saw coming to my church, dressed dumpy, looked miserable, had hard stories about what life had brought them. And I did not want to go to Africa.
You were wearing clogs, by the way. Just so I don't know how much of a downgrade missionary clothing would have been.
Way worse. So I thought, I don't want to go to Africa because the last missionaries that came to my church were from Africa. And to me, they were miserable. Mm-hmm. So I thought, no way. Other than that, I literally was standing on this mound of grass at USC, said, you have all of me besides.
Except these 3.
Except those 3 things. No way. And then I kind of waited for lightning or something. Nothing happened. So I thought, I'll go to class. I went to class. I came home. Honestly, I forgot I had done that. Go into the dorm room, and Debbie looks at me, says, what's different about you? And I said, nothing. Nothing's different about me. And we did our homework and talked and stuff. We had dinner. That night we were doing homework. And she stops and goes, there's something different about you. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's showing? I said, no, nothing. The next morning, I got dressed. I'm ready to go out to class. And she stands in front of the dorm room door and says, okay, did you become a Christian? I started crying. How did you know? What's happening? What's going on? She starts crying. I've been praying for you all year. Aww. It was an amazing moment. And I said, but I got to go to class. I'll talk to you later. I went out, shut the door, and literally my first thought was, God, only Debbie. I'm not telling anybody else. I went to class, 3 weeks left of school, didn't tell a soul. I was very good. I just talked to Debbie, who was freaking out. She was so excited. And I went back to Chicago to my home for the summer. And I got home and we're having a good time. And about a week or so into it, my mom sat me down and she said, I'm so sorry I have to tell you this, but your dad and I are getting a divorce. Mm. I was completely shocked. I thought I had the perfect family. I had no idea there were any problems. And all I knew to say was, Mom, you need Jesus. You have to have Jesus. He'll change your life. He'll keep you married. And she's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, you have to talk to Jesus and tell him you want him to change your life. And then he will. And then everything will be okay. Mm. She's like, what do I say? I said, I don't know. Just talk to him. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just bumbling. And so right there, my mom becomes a Christian. I pray for her. She becomes a Christian. And she says to me, you got to tell your grandmother. I'm like, oh my gosh. So
no one else, though.
No one else.
That's it.
2 weeks later, we had lunch at a restaurant. And she sits me down and said, okay, Karen, tell your grandma what you told me. I'm like, you have to talk to Jesus and he'll change your life. He changed my life and he changed Mom's life. So he has to change your life. And she said, well, how do I do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I went through the same thing again. Right there, my grandma became a Christian. Then I started wondering, when I go back to school, I wonder what other Christians are in the theater department. There has to be somebody else. I can't be the only one. So I start writing notes to people, telling them, I just became a Christian. Do you know God? I mean, crazy things. I started writing notes and sending things to my siblings, to the point where my oldest sister called me and said, Karen, can you please stop sending me Bibles? You've sent me 3 Bibles. I'm like, oh, have I really? Oh, sorry about that. Went back to school. The greatest joy was telling people about Jesus. It just came to life. I couldn't believe it. Then Jim and I get married, get into the entertainment industry, and suddenly realize, oh my goodness, this is the world's most influential mission field. And we're missionaries in Hollywood. Now, this didn't hit me at that point, but we realized that. We said, okay, we've got to just embrace who we are and what this is, and got excited about it, started prayer groups and such. Then we had boys and decided they need a bigger perspective than just Hollywood. So we signed up to pray for a boy through World Vision. And we got this amazing boy from Mozambique. Started praying for him, sending him letters. We all got into it. He was our 3rd son. We loved it. And then when they were about high school, we got a chance to go to Africa. It was the most life-changing trip in the world. All of us. We came back different people. And on the way home on the plane, oh my gosh, the 3 things I told him I did not want became the 3 greatest joys of my life. So Jim says, why didn't you ask him for that you didn't want $1 billion? I'm like, forgot that one.
That is amazing.
Isn't that something?
I feel like that is so true for me too. Whenever I tell the Lord I don't want to do something, like I'll do this, but definitely not that, I know as soon as I speak it, I'm like, that's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Why did I even say it? I know it. Isn't that wild?
So you accidentally become a phenomenal evangelist just right off the bat. But I'm curious, when were some of the first times that you started to experience the supernatural presence and power of God?
It took a while. And at first, honestly, I didn't know it. But we started this prayer group in Hollywood where we were getting industry professionals together. We met in our home for years, and then it got too big. We had to go to somewhere bigger. But Jim and I started getting annoyed at each other on the day that we had prayer. Something would happen. Somebody would break into the house. Our car was parked in front of our house, and there was a police chase in our sweet little neighborhood. And the guy turned the corner in his car and smashed into ours, and it got pushed into the street. I mean, insane things happened. And suddenly it hit us, this might be spiritual battle. So we called a friend of ours who was way more spiritual than we were, and said, you got to come over and pray for us. She literally walked through the house, prayed for us, prayed for the house, and it stopped. We didn't have that happen every month after that. And I started thinking, that was pretty supernatural. And from then I started being more open to it. With my background of not having that open to me at all, I started realizing, wait a minute, there is another dimension here. And then Jim, who's very much into science, talked about how the world was created in 11 dimensions and then went down to 4. But there's a whole spiritual realm in dimensions 5 through 11, and it's available to us, but we just don't realize it. So we've geeked out over that for years. I'm very excited about that. And I started seeing miracles happening that I knew this is God, and we just don't open ourselves up to him or allow ourselves to believe that this is possible. And once you do, I literally now pray for miracles every day, and I see them.
Well, this maybe is a good, actually, we need to take a quick break, don't we?
Yes, this is riveting, and I cannot wait to hear more about the miracles you see. But first, a word from CBN.
Hi, I'm Drew Friedrich, president of Operation Blessing. And right now, thousands of people in Jamaica are hurting, and lives have been turned upside down due to Hurricane Melissa. Our teams are on the ground, and every second is critical. We need your help to make a difference and provide food, clean water, aid, and relief supplies. So call now, text to give, or go to cbn.com/disaster and make a difference today.
This might actually be a good segue because, Karen, I know that we can smile about it now, but you had a need for a miracle hit home with one of your sons.
I sure did. I have an older son who is now in his 30s and a younger son who's just 4 years younger. And we were having a great life. Everything was going well. I loved raising these boys. We had so much fun. And one day, my oldest, Christopher, had a headache. And so I just gave him aspirin. And then he had a headache the next day. And then he had a worse headache the day after that. And I knew that Jim's family has had a history of migraines. And I thought, oh, Lord, please don't let Christopher have migraines. It's a brutal, brutal thing to go through. And he seemed okay again. And then they came back. And I made a doctor's appointment. And then they went away. So I canceled the doctor's appointment. Then Jim and I went away on a trip. And while we were gone, his mother, who was staying with them, my mother-in-law, called and said, Christopher is just laying around on the sofa and he can't get up. He doesn't want to go to school. He can't do anything. I said, well, he needs to go to school. I'm a mother of boys. Get going, you know. And we come home and he had started having dry heaves. And there was nothing seemingly wrong with him. So I brought him back into the doctor. She immediately brought him to the hospital for CT scan. And I'm waiting out in the waiting room. And it seemed longer than it should have been. Suddenly I saw all these nurses go into the room that Christopher was in. I thought that was weird. Then I saw doctors go into the room. And I didn't even know they were around. And I thought, okay, this is a bad sign. Then his pediatrician came out of the room toward me crying. Oh, I remember that. And so I thought, this is not a good sign. And she said, this only happens maybe once in a whole doctor's career, but your son has a brain tumor. And she says he needs to get to the hospital immediately. Now, ironically, we have dear friends who 6 years before that, their son got a brain tumor. And we walked through the entire process with them, and I knew how messy it was. I knew how bad it was, and I thought, okay. So I called Jim. He jumped in the car, and we met at the hospital and found out he had a brain tumor the size of an orange in the back of his head that had to be removed immediately. It was pressing on his brainstem. And they had no guarantee of what it was or what was going to happen. We had one decision to make. They wanted us to have surgery immediately. This was a Thursday. The best surgeon in the whole hospital, and they said in LA, was out of the country and wouldn't be back until Monday. So we had a choice. Do we want to do it immediately, which they recommended, or do we want to wait until Monday and get the best surgeon? And we just prayed and decided we are waiting till Monday. God's going to get him through. He's gotten him through 8 years. He was 8 years old. We'll get him through the weekend. So we're at this big room in the hospital for 3 days with more people coming in and out, more people bringing food, Beanie Babies. Oh my gosh, we have a bin of Beanie Babies. And just loving us to the point where, first of all, the hospital told us you have to stop having so many guests because there were too many coming in.
Popular.
Too many. And 2 days before, my family flew in from out of town. I mean, it was amazing. And 2 days before surgery, Jim and I finally decided to go home and take a shower and just change. And my sister was staying with Christopher with all of our friends. And on our way out the door, there was a woman who was with her daughter in the same big prep room. And this little baby had been here 3 months. And the mom followed us out the door. And when we're walking down the hall, she said, "Excuse me, can I talk to you?" We're like, yeah, we really want to go home, but yes. And we went into her room and she said, "My daughter's been here 3 months and I have never experienced what I'm watching with your family and your friends." And she said, "Why are you different?" And all we knew to say was, we know Jesus and he's holding us up and he's bringing us friends and he's giving us a hope. And she said, "I want that. I need that." So right there in that room, we got to tell her about Jesus and she became a Christian. And then she started getting a little antsy and she said, "My husband does not like to talk about God. So pray for me that I'll know what to say to him, but I have to go." And we said, okay. And she left. We went home. The next day we came back. We're getting ready for surgery the next day. and we're walking out the door to get something at home that we needed the night before his surgery. And she comes up to us again while we're walking down the hall and said, "Excuse me, my husband wants to talk to you." We're like, oh my gosh. So he comes in the room, we sit down, and he says, "Okay, I'm ready to hear about God." Oh. So we got to tell him, and he got to accept Jesus. And we left the hospital that night, and I remember saying, "We don't know what's going to happen with Christopher, but that was worth it. That was worth it." 2 people who now have a hope. The next day, he had his surgery, and miraculously, there was so much prayer, he came out okay. But then we learned something else. That day before that we were home, when we went home, we were really low. And suddenly I was in the room, and I went over to say to Jim, "How are you doing?" And I looked up, it was 11 a.m. in the morning. No, it was 12 o'clock. It was 11 a.m. And I came into the kitchen, and I said, "I was just about to tell you how bad I felt, and suddenly I'm feeling better. I think we're going to be okay, regardless of what happens." And Jim said, "Me too. Okay, let's pull ourselves together. This is amazing. Let's go back to the hospital." We did. After the surgery, we found out at 11 o'clock that morning, 12 of our friends got together on Super Bowl Sunday and prayed for Christopher and prayed for us. And we physically felt the difference because of their prayer. And that changed my life forever with prayer, that I physically was okay. Emotionally, I was okay. And it was just the prayers of our friends who gave up their Super Bowl day to pray for us. And he came out okay. He's wonderful now. He's healthy. It was miraculous. The doctor could not admit that it was a miracle. We're like, "It's a miracle." He goes, "And very good medicine." Like,
of course.
"But it's a miracle." And I got so hooked on prayer after that. There is nobody that can tell me that prayer is not effective.
I love that. And I just feel like you have the Hollywood Prayer Network. And I feel like after, you opened by sharing the story about Hugh Hefner and ministering to him. And I'm just curious because, we are hearing right now that from a lot of people who are evangelists, that there is just this openness that they've never seen before. So throughout your career, you probably by now know that if the Lord is putting you in front of somebody, often it's probably for a reason. And you have that boldness to share the gospel with them. So I'm curious, when you might only have just one time to meet a person who you don't know where their faith stands, how do you tell them about God?
I start by actually caring about them. They're not objects or projects. It's somebody who I really want to get to know who they are. And I ask them questions. I love to ask, "What was your life like growing up?" I love to ask, "Where do you come from? What type of family do you have?" Find out a little bit about them. And then I always have something that I can relate to. "Oh, I get that." Or, "Oh, I know somebody that's gone through that." Or "This is, I get how hard it is," or what it is. And then I just offer my story. I do it because creative people, I don't want to tell somebody what to believe. I don't want to make somebody try to believe something. But I believe the power of storytelling. So I love to find out somebody's story. And then I love to tell my story. And then it always ends up somehow being able to tell God's story. Somehow he just, I can't help it but tell my story and give God the glory for something, whatever we're talking about. And people ask questions back. Now, if somebody's not interested, I say what I can, and I just love them and go on. But most people, when I start asking them questions, then they start asking questions. And I find people are hungry for truth. Jim and I years ago said, "Okay, we go to so many Hollywood parties, and they're all just news, weather, sports, what's going on in the industry, who's doing what. We don't want to leave until we have one significant conversation with somebody. And it doesn't have to be the whole gospel, but it can be learning about things. It can be having a topic that intrigues us to think more or something." And it completely changes our experience. Every every event, every party, there's somebody that we get a good conversation with, and they want it. They want to talk about something more than just surface stuff. And so it becomes an opportunity for them to be able to talk more about things. I mean, there was this one crazy after party. We had a wrap party for a film that Jim had done the score for. And it was in this gorgeous Hollywood Hills house, and we're overlooking the city. And, I'm sure somebody's doing cocaine in the bathroom. I wasn't paying attention. But
set the stage. That's beautiful.
That's it. There you go. And we're talking to the director on the balcony. And I don't know how we got into it, but Jim said, "Oh, no, Karen and I never slept together before we got married." And he looks at him and he stops. He goes, "Are you kidding? I've never met anybody like you. I could write a book about you." And then he starts asking us, "Well, why? Why would you do that? What are you thinking?" And we have this amazing conversation. And suddenly I look around and people are starting to come up and listen to us as we're talking about that. And they were intrigued. Nobody got mad. Nobody thought we were crazy. They were just like, "Wow, we have not met somebody like you. This is fascinating."
So you're saying in Hollywood, this is not a common phenomenon?
Not common.
Yeah.
But we are seeing more openness. I truly believe in all the decades that I've been there, people are hungry for more. And what I believe is when sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. So people on the outside can often go, "Oh, look how awful Hollywood is." And I'm like, no, when sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. People are hungry here. I'm seeing people become Christians. I'm having conversations with people I haven't had before. And they're easier now than they even were in the past because people are so open.
You mentioned, we've mentioned St. Jim here a few times. Obviously, your husband's amazing. I know you guys have a different chronology term that you use. I know we celebrated your... was it number of days being married?
Yes.
Right? We don't say, how many days was it?
Well, yesterday he said 15,192.
So for those who are not quick at math like that, could you put that in approximate?
Yes. This past March, it was 41 years.
41 years. And you use a term which I am half torn because I love it, but also you use the term "we fell in like."
Yes.
Could you have such an amazing ministry because I've seen you two, you do all the pre-engagement and premarital counseling in our community.
Everybody we know.
Yeah, for everyone know. Which, so when we'll see the results later and then we can tie it back to you.
I know it.
But
we had a 1-year anniversary this weekend, so that was a good one.
That's right.
Yes.
Happy Rachel and Brandon.
That's right.
And you guys also officiate a lot of weddings, which has brought up a lot of interesting conversations. We'll get into that. But I'm curious now, you guys have such in a city and an industry where people are just going through spouses like wardrobe changes. You guys have been these rock solid. I mean, it is one of the best marriages I've had the privilege to be up close and see firsthand. But maybe you could give us a little bit of your love story and some of the lessons, because I don't think we talk about that enough of a miracle. Like, I mean, 41 years together in a world which says, marriages are for seasons.
And I truly love this man more than I ever have. It just grows and it grows. It's crazy. In fact, what we say is a lot of young people are looking to find their soulmate. We didn't know we were soulmates. We grew into becoming soulmates. And I think to try to find that, we're hindering ourselves. If we find somebody that we love and we're compatible with, we grew into being soulmates. And now we have a totally enabling relationship. I mean, we can't do anything without the other one. Aww. But we met. I was producing a musical at USC called Pippin. And I hired Jim to be my musical director. And he always lies and says he saved my show. But I literally gave him his first job. So we started working together, and we did lots of shows together and became good friends, but never interested in each other. We were just buddies. In fact, we were pals. We always thought of each other as just pals. And 6 years after we met, we were out of school. We were on our careers were going great. He was writing music. I was producing. And one day he asked me to pick him up from the airport. He was on a business trip. And we got in the car. He got in the car and said, I missed you while I was gone. And I looked at him. He said, like a friend, just like a friend. And I said, well, I miss you too, like a friend. And I broke into a sweat. And I thought, oh my gosh, what just happened? Oh no. So I dropped him off at his office in Hollywood. And then I went home and I had to call him. And I said, something just happened. We have to talk. And, he's a guy. Oh, okay. What? I don't know. Okay. So I came back and we walked around Hollywood and Highland. And we realized, oh my gosh, we might be falling in like. But he didn't want to have a girlfriend because he thought he'd have to call me every day and that he was busy and really didn't want to do that.
Totally understandable.
And I didn't want a boyfriend because my first thought was, I'm going to have to make chocolate chip cookies. I don't know how to bake chocolate chip cookies.
That's what you thought the roles of a girlfriend were?
Yes.
Is
Isn't that
baked
awful
goods?
that I have to buy it?
You hired him. That's the power dynamics right there.
Well, I didn't think about it. I should have thought about it. So we decided very sophisticatedly that we would stay where we were. We would not go into this part of our relationship. We wanted to stay pals, and we would renegotiate in 6 months. And we thought that was very mature of us. So we're like, okay, good. High five it, keep going. 3 months later, we had forgotten that I had already bought 2 round-trip tickets for the two of us to go to Hawaii to visit a friend from USC who lived there. So we're on a plane to Hawaii 3 months later going, oh no, this is going to be really hard. Oh gosh. So Larry, who we were staying with, he and his parents, had to work the next day. We were in Waikiki. We decided to just go to the beach. We were so tired. We were going to take a nap at the beach and then meet them for dinner. So we go there. We were laying on the beach. I fell asleep. I woke up and he goes, I think this is going to wreck it. And I said, oh, I hope it doesn't. And he kissed me. And that night we decided to get married.
So you went from 0 to 60 real fast.
1 second. And he always says, oh, it must have been a really good kiss. I said, no, I don't think so. I think it was God's timing. But we were best friends. We knew everything about each other. We went through everything. When we first met, I broke up with a boyfriend who I thought I could have married. And he walked me through it. And he was so sweet. And it was never out of anything for himself because he wasn't interested.
Is this the Disneyland guy? Yeah. Oh, that's right. You guys, this is really cool because the other miracle is she stayed friends with someone who now is an amazing connection for the most VIP tour of
dear
Disneyland.
Man.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
always been a dear man. And we've been friends forever. And now I get to go to Disneyland because of him. So it's very fun.
And Jim and him are friends, which is so cool.
Yes. And his wife. We love it.
Oh, my God. So for those right now who, this is such a huge deal, right, is who you marry. And just wondering like, okay, God, like I know you have to care about this, right? So you do all these singles events. I know.
We do.
I know because you email me them all the time.
We are passionate about young Christians in Hollywood want to get married. Incredible men, incredible women, and they're not finding each other. And I believe it's a spiritual battle. So we decided to just go for it and pray for young people so that they can get breakthrough and get married because the enemy doesn't want them married. The worst thing could be a lot of great, solid, strong Christian marriages in Hollywood. That would just break the image of how awful it is there, And so we pray, and we pray for them. We have married couples who are Christians come and pray, and we do events. We just had a wonderful event this past weekend. We had 200 people. It was incredible.
What's your encouragement to people who are like, hey, I believe in God. I know He's a plan for my life, but I just haven't found my partner. And I know God has to care so much about this because, you as the married people at the table here, I'm assuming you would say it's like aside from being a Christian, it's probably the biggest decision you make on this planet.
100%.
Absolutely. And what I say is, don't try to find the person. Try to become the best person you can be. And thank God that if He put that desire in you, that He's going to fulfill it. And if they can be in an attitude of, let me become the best person I can be, let me fall more in love with Jesus so that I am walking with Him and thanking Him that this is going to happen. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to try to make it happen, but just know it's okay. You've given me this. I trust you for this. I'm just going to try to become the best I can in the process. And get in community where you can have fun and grow and just know that He'll be faithful.
Mm-hmm. Karen, you and your husband live in the City of Angels. So I'm curious, have you ever seen an angel?
Well, I haven't, but I've had 2 amazing experiences with angels. One is when I was 5 years old. My birthday is on Memorial Day weekend. So it's always on a weekend where families go off and do things. And my mom planned a 5-year-old birthday party for me, and nobody came. And she was on the phone trying to find out why didn't you come? They forgot, they were on vacation, all of this stuff. And a few people she ended up calling and saying, please come over. It's kind of like you set the king's table and then you have to get the people from the streets to come in,
Aww.
So that was my 5-year-old birthday party. Grew up, never thought about it. But every time there was an event that I was producing, I was paranoid that no one was going to show up. Just a crazy fear. My wedding, I had my sisters go out and tell me, are there people coming to the church? Is anybody going to be there at my wedding? Finally, a woman walked up to me and she said, you know what? I know your story. And she said, did you know that that room for your birthday party was filled with angels? She said, you're never alone. They are there celebrating you, loving you. And I was healed from that fear. The minute I realized, wait a minute, I'm waiting for people where God is fulfilling all my needs. The room was full of angels. So I wrote a children's story called Angels, Angels Everywhere. And I'm in the process of getting it published. But in the meantime, my youngest son at 5 years old got up one morning and he came to Jim and I. He goes, Mommy and Daddy, there are angels outside my window. And I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, what are they like? He goes, oh, they're smiling and they're nice. And I said, how many of them? He said, 5. And I said, really? I said, what are they like? And he explained to me different looks, different colors, all joyful, all happy to see him. And I said, did it bother you? He goes, oh, no, they're really nice. Every time he told the story, it was exactly the same thing. So we put it on video and we have him telling us about the angels that he saw. And I realized at that point, this is so real. And then it hit me. If we as Christians knew how powerful we are, the God of the universe created us. That's amazing enough. Then he gave us his son to be our guide, our role model. If that's not enough, he gave us the Holy Spirit to live inside of us. And if that's not enough, he gave us guardian angels to watch over us. We should be like fortresses of spiritual strength and hope and joy and all the fruits of the Spirit. And we don't think about it. The fact that we have angels around us, taking care of us, protecting us, I don't know, it's beyond what I can imagine.
Yeah. Karen, as the reluctant missionary self-professed, you have been alleged to have smuggled Bibles into the former Soviet Union. I'm curious, could you tell us about, because for someone who swore they'd never be a missionary, who then went to Africa and is now bringing the good word to Russia. Yeah. That's what Jesus talking about. Oh, woe to you hypocrites, who smuggle Bibles into Russia.
Well, actually, that's a funny story because it was early in our marriage and Jim and I had committed to pray together every single day of our marriage. And we have done that except the trip to Russia where I couldn't call him. I couldn't do anything. I had to just be undercover and had no way to reach him.
You don't strike me as someone who would do well undercover.
So what we did was a couple of us, I was a part of a group of women that started an international women's film organization called Kino Women International. Kino means film in Russian. So we got women from all over the world. And the first place we were going to gather is we got offered by a Russian filmmaker to meet in Moscow. So we were going to Russia. And my friend Susie and I said, it was in the early 80s.
So you went to the Soviet Union.
I went to the Soviet Union when it was still behind Iron Curtains. So we were checked. They had to find out about us before we came. We were all checked when we got there. I mean, it was intense. We were never without an escort, never without being watched. And we thought, we want to bring Bibles to people there because no one can get them. So we ordered Bibles in Russian and we put them in the lining of our suitcases and where the side of it zips and we got suitcases where you can put them in there. And we got little ones we put in the pockets of like pants and then folded the pants and put them in. And so the two of us had our suitcases full of Bibles. And we went first to the airport and thought, okay, so it's got to get through.
Yeah.
And every time we're like, Lord, you got to do it. Lord, you got to do it. He gets us through the check. We get on the plane. We get off the plane. Everything is checked. They opened the suitcase.
Is your heart like just...
Oh, I'm like, Lord, I should have been more full of faith and calmer, but I'm like...
No, Soviet prison is not where you want to go.
Just keep smiling. And it got through. And then we couldn't give them all at once. We had to just give them one at a time to people quietly so that no one would notice. And we came back and it was like, we did it. And then I learned about, was it Brother Andrew?
Yeah, the smuggler.
Brother Andrew the smuggler who said, Somebody said to him, Brother Andrew, why don't you just take Bibles, fill a plane, and dump them somewhere? Just get them out of the plane. Why do you take one at a time and risk your life and everything? He said, because the Bible says, go ye, not dump ye. And I thought, okay, I got to go ye, not dump ye. So yeah, I did that. It was thrilling.
Wow. And then the Soviet Union fell several years later.
And I know it was one of my Bibles.
Yeah, we can't prove they didn't do that. Oh my gosh. Karen, I'm curious, as such a prayer, I mean, you are the Hollywood Prayer Network, and prayer is such an integral part of your story and what you do today. And you are one of the most prayerful women I know.
Which is funny because that's my joke. I always say to people, oh, I don't pray. I just facilitate prayer.
Yeah, facilitated prayer. I'm curious though, what does your discernment process look like? We know a lot of our listeners really enjoy hearing how people hear from God and what they do. What is it? Fasting? Is it solitude? Is it silence? You and I have historically struggled with that spiritual discipline.
The silence is a tough one.
No,
I know. It's no, this is kindred spirits. Actually, I was having lunch with them one time, and they give me marriage advice, and Jim's like, the best thing you're looking for in a partner, right, is someone who you can talk with, right, and then someone who you can just sit in silence with, right? And I was
he's like, and you're telling me that?
Yes. But yeah, what does it look like for you when you make these decisions and you think, should I go here? And like, how does God speak to you?
Well, first of all, I know it's different for everybody because I know some people I get kind of jealous of sometimes. God told me this. I'm like, I wish God would just tell me. I'd love a note. I'd love, a vision, an image. I would love that. For Jim and I, the weirdest thing that we found is that Jim and me, I just heard myself.
There's
You're
grace
just
for
like
that.
my mom. She was always
There's grace for that.
That's right. We have found everything has to start with prayer. We have to give everything to God. If we try to do it on our own, it's not going to work. So whatever we're doing, we just give it to him. But I don't always get a sense of, oh, well then, Karen, thank you for telling me that. Go this direction. Or how about do that? So what we've come to is everything has to start in prayer. I have to spend time with him, whatever it is. I do not have that culturally Christian 1 hour quiet time every morning.
With great coffee.
Great coffee and God and me. I'm too scattered and busy to do that. But every day I spend time with him. We memorize scripture. We have index cards and we write down scriptures and we memorize them. We teach a class how to talk about Jesus without freaking out to industry professionals where we're memorizing scripture. So we're making sure that we do that. But we honestly believe if we give it to him, he's given us a brain. We make a choice. We have to trust it's him. If it doesn't go well, God doesn't say if you talk to me, everything's going to go well. We know he's with us. He's walking through with us. But the confidence of saying we gave it to him, do what we want. It's like Jim gives an analogy that I use and I love. If we as parents bring our kids to Disneyland, we say, okay, we're at Disneyland. Go do whatever you want. If they keep going, should I go here? Do you want me to go to Fantasyland? Where do you want me to go? Just go anywhere. We're at Disneyland. What do you want to do? Well, should we go on that ride next? Just pick one. And I feel like that's God with me. I'm not going to say, should I do this? Should I do that? Is that okay? I say, Lord, this is my heart. This is what I want. Show me, guide me. I'll make a decision, and then I trust you're in it with me. And whatever happens, we're doing this together. And so that's been our journey. And he is so faithful. I've gone through times where I truly thought this is exactly what God wanted, and I walk in it, and it's disaster. And I go, okay, I've got to learn something. I've got to figure out what does he have for me in this. It's not that everything goes well. It's how do I handle it? What am I going to learn from it?
Is there something that you can think of off the top of your head that you're like, I swore this was God?
Oh, gosh, yes. How many should I tell you? Okay, I'll tell you a big one. One of my first shows, I had an idea before this ever happened to have a music show of gospel music on television. I thought my example was Solid Gold. Bob Banner was a great show. I loved it. I'm showing my age. So I thought, I want to have a rock gospel show. I went to a producer. He said, this is amazing. Let's do it. I went to Bob Banner, the big producer at the time of music shows. He made a partnership. I got an investor. It was coming together. I was a producer. You couldn't stop. We had offices. We were planning it. We were lining up all the people. We had the best people. We had Amy Grant. We had all of these different people. And suddenly, we were about 2 months into this, and Bob Banner pulled me aside and said, the money hasn't come in yet. And I said, it hasn't. The executive producer's sitting in the other office. I walked in. I said, Dave, come on. Where's the money? I thought you were giving us money. And he said, a couple of little kinks. It's a little slower than I thought, but don't you worry. And I said, no, I'm worried. No. Where is the money?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. It turns out Bob Banner put tens of thousands of dollars into this. We had booked talent. We had built the set. We had everything going. And the executive producer walked away, didn't put a penny into it. We lost everything. I was so sure that God had me be the one to do the first rock gospel television show. Everything came together, and it completely fell apart. And I was walking through my backyard going, okay, Lord, I knew this was you. So what is this? And it took me a long time to figure out. It was a lesson to me that, you know what? It doesn't always turn out, but God is faithful. And he turned it into something else. And I met people along the way I got to work with. But it was disaster. And I had to go in and tell this man I had looked up to as an amazing producer and say, I was wrong and you've lost money and I am so sorry and I don't know what to do. And I had to do that. But what can you do? God had other lessons. And I tell people, so many people come to Hollywood. God told me to come here and it's so hard and I'm just angry at him because nothing's turning out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't blame him. He brought you here maybe to have you grow as a believer. Maybe to be able to fulfill a dream that now may not be the best for you. There are so many different reasons. I could list a whole bunch of things. But just because everything didn't work out, or mostly just because it's hard, it's harder than you thought. You have to hang in there longer than you thought. You don't have the money to pay your bills. That doesn't mean it's not God. It means you're following him and trusting him and growing and learning from what you're doing.
And that's so hard. I know with me, I will, I'll do whatever. If I have an impression, if God speaks to me,
true.
I will do, I have no problem.
Me too.
But it's always hard.
It's hard.
When there are other people involved. I don't like that as much. When I have to partner with other people, when I have to ask other people to put their money in. Yes. And I don't know what the end result is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be, we're just supposed to get it to a point and then it's all going to fall apart. We don't know.
We don't know.
And all we can say is we just have to keep trusting God and see how he uses it. And it's whether if it ends up better. I mean, my experience most of the times is always has ended up better than I set out
than you imagine.
To do.
Yes.
But it's a leap of faith. And, I went through something recently where I was like, Lord, I just had this vision because I was like, is this going to work or is it not? And I saw myself at the top of a cliff and there were a lot of people behind me. And I'm like, Lord, don't tell me you brought me here and I brought on all these people along
and
for
we're
this.
all going off the cliff.
Yes. And I told one of my friends, I was like, can you please pray into this? And she was like, Abby, I prayed and I saw God make a bridge and you're going to be just fine. And so is everyone who's coming on this journey with you. And sure enough, it was incredible and extraordinary, but it is still, even with all of the ways I've seen God work, miracles, provide, every time you step out and you don't know where you're going, the Lord loves having us in this beautiful tension of being able to trust him, knowing he is good, but that healthy fear, healthy reliance on him and every single day of praying, hitting our knees, and knowing that it's not happening unless God shows up. God's at the helm and God leads the way.
Oh, it's so true. But the thing I love is that you're willing to take the risk. Mm-hmm. Jim and I have a gift of faith. So we're like, it's going to work out. We just, yes. I don't know, it's just going to. But we know if we don't take risks, if we don't try something, I would so rather fail than not have tried.
Amen.
Without a question. There's a great movie, Meet the Robinsons, an old animated movie. In fact, Cameron's got a voiceover on it. One of the big themes of the movie is the family celebrates failure because you tried. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I love that. We have a motto in our family. We were watching a movie, Galaxy Quest, years ago. Oh, it's such a good movie. And in it, the aliens keep saying, never give up, never surrender. And I thought, that's our family motto. Never give up, never surrender. So it's been ever since. We just show up and take risks and never give up, never surrender.
All right, the captain has turned on the fast seatbelt sign and said we have to make our initial descent. But Karen, you're like a second mom to me. Jim and I work together. And Chris, despite everything you shared, is actually surprisingly healthy. I would say he's normal, but he's very healthy, and he's amazing. And you're just. It's funny. I was thinking about this when we heard you were going to come on the show, and you talk about God's faithfulness. I remember because so often, and this has been true of me. We measure like obedience. We say, all right, God, if I'm obedient, I'm obviously going to have health, wealth, house, and spouse. And I remember one night we were all sitting upstairs in your guys' office, and you go, and someone wanted money for a charity, and you said, I wish we had there's all these people with millions of dollars, and they squander it, and it's like, what do we, people we've talked about before, and you're like, gosh, God, I would love to do that, right? And I remember going, Karen, look at this, you have hundreds of kids at your house, constantly, right? I mean, they all think you're their second parent, and they love you, and you have this marriage. And I remember going this is you're the wealthiest person I know, especially with the currency that matters, And you're like, yeah, but it would be great to have a little more funding in for the nonprofit, right? And I said, well, let's pray, right? And then I remember this the next day, not good for her family, but a woman had passed away, and you got a notice of a huge grant that was bequeathed to you guys. And God knew, we're up there just whining about this, right? And it was yeah, but I just remember, as you said, God's faithfulness. But it's so important because your life is a living testimony to the stuff that matters, the stuff you go on to the next level. I mean, when you go to heaven, it's going to be all these people who call you their parents, and it's just God's been so faithful. And so I want people who are listening to this, if you go to Hollywood, you will eventually get connected to Karen and Jim, and you guys have loaned money out irresponsibly. I love that. They're if you need a low interest financing, Bank of Covell is just no standard
right here.
No standards, and God always comes through with it. Your house is never empty, and it's just such a blessing. It's you are a living, breathing testimony to God's faithfulness. So I'm just so grateful to know you.
Thank you. Don't get me to cry again. I hate crying on camera. Thank you.
With that, I do think we need to land the plane. We have a really special segment. So Abby, you want to introduce that?
Yes, and I will just say before, if you all want more of Karen after we wrap this interview, don't worry, we have a bonus clip, another incredible true Hollywood story of Karen in action, bringing faith to Hollywood. So go to the CBN Family app if you want to see more of that. And with that, Karen, this is our tradition at the end of the show. Ryan and I pray over our guests beforehand, and we write whatever the Lord puts on our heart on a note card.
It's like the Academy Awards, right? You've been nominated for a word.
No way!
So just this morning, as I prayed for you, I just felt this impression that just joy abounds in your life. And I saw a vision of you and your husband dancing, and the song How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You popped in my head. And I had then just this vision of y'all talking and thanking God for how he has blessed your lives. And I just felt the Lord lead me to, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you, I can't even read my own handwriting or remember the verse, but I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Matthew 25:21-23.
That's the very thing I want to hear in heaven.
And also, you don't know this, but Karen and Jim are legendary on the dance floor and all the weddings.
I didn't know
irresponsibly so. There have been the terrible music that you love, that comes on. I mean, Karen and Jim will get down. They are known. They will tear up a dance floor like you've never seen.
Aww.
So
that's amazing. Thank you.
And the word goes to.
Yes.
I got a simple one. I just felt like God was just lovingly reminding you that, I no longer call you servants, but I'm your friend, just like Moses. It's I called him friend. I was oh yeah, I call Karen friend. There's such an intimacy. Yes, I'm Master, Lord, but Karen is my friend. And I just felt like God was reminding you that, yeah, he's your friend. Call him anytime.
Oh, it's so true. I thank you. I cannot thank you enough. You're stuck as my other son. You're just stuck. Sorry.
I put that in the inheritance. Spiritual inheritance. So.
God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. And we never shouted out your husband, Jim, who did the score of Heaven Meets Earth.
Oh, that's right.
Y'all have been such a blessing being here and just what he did for our music. It's just fantastic. So thank you. Again, if you want to hear more from Karen, go to the CBN Family app. We'll have a bonus clip for you there. Thank you to our wonderful listeners and, of course, to the Christian Broadcasting Network for allowing us to use this platform to share wonderful stories like what Karen shared with us today. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.